Now I'm going to demonstrate the strategy for line gesture. Line gesture is really based on the movable masses, which we talked about in the proportion video. That's a means to simplify the skeletal structure and landmarks that we can really see in a body as we're observing it. For this process, what we're going to do is again use Vine charcoal. You'll probably want your chamois again. You may also opt to have an eraser too, because you might get a little bit longer per pose in this video set. Again, make sure you stay in pace with the video duration. As soon as the picture changes on the model website, I want you to start a new drawing. Again, I want you to keep 3 examples from this session to submit as your examples of line gesture. You'll make a lot more. You'll draw for the 35 minutes that the model website is going. So you can be opting to either wipe drawings out with your chamois or keep them as an example. All right, so with our fine charcoal this time, we'll always use it on its fine tip like a line. We're engaging the edges of the body, really thinking about structure. But what's important is we aren't going to noodle our way around the perimeter of the body. It's just too organic. If I was to sort of work through a bicep, getting to a hand, come back, find my edge here, get back to a torso, you can see I'm already losing my center line. I don't have a lot of sense of proportion. By the time I get down to the foot and try to come back, I definitely can't pull through and recognize where the other side of the body is going to go. So with that in mind, instead what we're going to do, I got here without a chamois, but that's okay, is we're really going to keep our line connected to the paper, sort of like we were doing working around the perimeter, but instead we're going to build the shapes of the body based on simplified versions of those skeletal shapes or movable masses. I'm going to say always start sort of with the center line in the torso, but then find a very efficient shape to find your pelvis block and your rib cage block. Keep connected. You'll get a shape for the thigh, shape for lower leg, shape for foot. In this simplified strategy, you can see that I'm closing the forms in kind of elliptical shapes. You can move from form to form, but again, you want to make sure that you're always closing a form before you move on to the next. Where do the forms close? They close at the joints. All right. If I do a more square version, again, I'm going to start with kind of center line of the torso. If we kind of work through those rib cage and pelvic shape as 4-sided rectangles or trapezoids, that works really well. You can make 4 edges, 4 sides, working down to get upper and lower leg, more sort of wedge shape. And as you come back, you can correct and reconnect. Like I said, the breaks are the joints. I'll come back up. Grab a head shape. I always do my arms last. They are not directly connected to the ground. So if we were working with a real model, they'd be the shapes most likely to move throughout the duration of the pose. So sort of working through them later really kind of helps. After we get kind of the basic forms, you can kind of come back in, give yourselves a little bit more context for structure with a few added lines. But that geometric approach really lets you get the body whole, keep your joints in place, and really recognize sort of where the body can bend and what shapes really stay predictably solid all the way through. We are I'm going to recommend that you try some gestures making a rule in your head where you use all like elliptical, rounded shapes, and other gestures where you're always working with a 3-sided or 4-sided kind of square, rectangle, trapezoid, more boxy construction, but ultimately we are aiming for a simplification model that are shapes that are easy for you to see in any pose and to repeat with similarity when you're viewing the body in any direction too. So these are showing a series of those shapes. That are using the same shapes, maybe just narrowed slightly as we move to profile, but allow us to turn 360 view on our body using repeated shapes that are the same in form and also in scale, height scale. All right, so now I'm going to go over and work from this model reference over here. I'll talk my way through that linear strategy. Again, here, of course, we have a more dynamic pose, and we'll start seeing how some of the shapes also shift in scale and proportion in response to position and perspective on the body too. All right, so here I go. So I'm going to start kind of working through the body center. It's called the axial skeleton. I'll get a thorax or a rib cage block and then come down and get a pelvis. From there, I'm going to go down, get a shape that gets me down to the knee, and then another shape that gets me to the lower leg and ankle. I'll then move into a foot shape and come back up, pulling back through. Another block for the thigh. Leg, it's fine if you repeat. As long as I'm closing the form, I can kind of come back up. This is where I could start connecting some shapes. Sorry, my lines are a little wild. I have to work behind the camera, which is interesting. So shoulder, upper arm, lower arm. Hand gets a little stacked on that side. I'll come back. I'll get my head shape closed and then come back. Upper arm, that's our humerus, coming across lower forearm and hand shape. So that's pretty dynamic first pass on my line gesture. This is where I lift my mark, start working through with a little bit of additional structural shape, but also connecting and correcting some of my forms to make them feel more specific to the shape I see. I use all the time I have. As soon as the pose changes on my screen, that's when I would change to the next drawing. But you can see on the second pass, I'm able to add more specificity, refine my edge a little bit further, and also correct some shapes. That's a pretty dynamic line gesture.